Welcome to Book Summary Podcast, your gateway to personal transformation. Each episode delivers big ideas from the world's most impactful books on mindset, productivity, and success, all in just a few minutes. Ready to turn knowledge into action? Let's get started.
Have you ever been there? That familiar knot in your gut, the one that just screams no inside your head, but somehow the word that actually comes out is yes.
Oh, definitely. That apologetic little yes.
Exactly. And you're left feeling trapped or obligated or maybe just, too nice to say what you really wanted.
It's a struggle so many people face.
For those of you, like our listener who asked for this deep dive, who've wrestled with that exact feeling, today we're peeling back the layers on why it's so hard.
It's that internal push and pull, isn't it? And that's really the core of our deep dive today. Why it's so incredibly difficult for us to say no, even when objectively it's the best thing for us.
Right. We're diving deep into the profound psychology behind why we comply, and maybe more importantly, how you can start reclaiming your personal power in these complex social moments.
And a lot of our insights today are drawn from the fantastic work of Dr. Vanessa Patrick. Her book, The Power of Saying No, gives us both the science behind it and, crucially, the practical tools to navigate these tricky situations.
Yeah, it's a great resource. And our mission today isn't just to summarize the book. We're extracting the key nuggets, the really surprising facts, to help you, the listener, gain real agency and, frankly, confidence in saying no when you need to.
Think of it as a shortcut, a way to get informed and feel more empowered in those moments.
And that quest for agency, it often starts with one really pivotal moment, doesn't it? For Dr. Patrick, the whole origin of her decades of research into what she calls empowered refusal, it actually stemmed from this, surprisingly infuriating birthday.
Yes, the birthday massacre, as she calls it.
Exactly. Picture this. It's her 24th birthday, mid-90s, Mumbai. She's the most junior person at an ad agency, stuck in a little cubicle. Her boss is leaving for the evening and casually asks if the fax confirmation for some meeting minutes has arrived from a client yet.
She says, no, it hasn't. And then instead of, happy birthday, see ya tomorrow, the boss just turns back and says, basically, don't leave until that fax comes in.
Wow. Just like that.
Yeah. And as the junior person, she felt completely trapped. It was almost an unspoken rule. You just didn't question it. You didn't push back.
And here's where it gets really interesting. She's sitting there thinking, could I just leave? Would he find out? Could I actually get fired? Imagine losing your first real job over a fax. What would her family think?
Right. And she's calling home multiple times throughout the evening. Her parents, her sisters, they're giving her updates on her own birthday party. Who's arrived, who ate dinner, who left already.
Oh, that's brutal, especially on a Tuesday night.
Torture. Finally, around 9:30 p.m., the fax machine whirs to life, and it arrives.
The crucial confirmation.
3 little words. Received with thanks. That was it. That was her 24th birthday, stuck in an empty office for a fax.
And that seemingly small, infuriating moment became the spark.
It opened her eyes to all these pointless personal sacrifices we make, especially at work. And it ignited this curiosity about how people think and feel and act when faced with these requests.
It was the start of her whole focus on empowerment and personal agency, all stemming from what she called a meaningless assignment. It just perfectly highlights the sometimes absurd costs of not saying no.
It really does.
Okay, so we've all felt that gut-wrenching yes. But why is it such a profound struggle? What's the deep-seated wiring behind this compliance, this difficulty saying no?
Well, it really comes down to something absolutely fundamental about us as humans. We are at our core social animals. It's baked into our evolution.
Right, survival depended on the group.
Exactly. For millennia, living in groups, cooperating, yes, complying was essential for survival. Being ostracized, cast out of the tribe, that was basically a death sentence.
Makes sense.
So this need to belong, as psychologists like Baumeister and Leary call it, it's a deep-seated motivation. We're wired to form and maintain these strong, stable relationships.
So saying no feels like you're threatening that fundamental need, like you're risking being pushed out.
Precisely. Linguistically, refusing someone is often described as a face-threatening act. It disrupts the harmony, the social fabric.
Yeah.
And that potential disruption, it causes a lot of anxiety and negative feelings, not just for the person being refused, but often even more for the person doing the refusing. We anticipate that discomfort.
We brace for impact, even if it doesn't come.
Exactly. Sometimes the fear of the negative feeling hurts us more than the act itself. We're almost hardwired to avoid that potential conflict.
And there's this interesting irony here too, isn't there? Society often seems to favor the asker, the person making the request.
Absolutely. If you can consistently get others to comply, to
Yeah.
do what you ask, that often translates directly into social status, into power for you, the asker.
Right.
There's a whole subfield of social psychology focused on influence, how people get others to say yes. Robert Cialdini's famous tactics.
Oh yeah, foot in the door, door in the face.
Exactly. Foot in the door, small request first, makes a bigger one easier later. Door in the face. Huge request gets rejected, makes the smaller, real request seem reasonable. These are designed to get automatic compliance. The assumption has always been you have to be really persuasive, work hard to get that yes.
But some really fascinating research suggests maybe you don't have to work quite as hard as we think. That flips the script a bit.
It really does. Vanessa Patrick at Cornell, she's done amazing work showing that people consistently overestimate how difficult it is to get others to comply.
Really? How so?
She found people would often say yes, even to requests that were intrusive or time-consuming or just ethically questionable. Asking strangers to use their cell phone, fill out long surveys, even asking them to deface a library book.
Wait, deface a library book? Seriously, people agreed to that.
A surprising number did. It just shows how deeply ingrained compliance is and maybe how deeply uncomfortable we are with direct confrontation, even when something feels wrong.
Wow. Okay, that's genuinely shocking. My inner rule follower is cringing.
And then you have Jia Zhang's rejection-proof experiments. After facing a lot of personal rejection, he decided to conquer his fear by actively seeking rejection every day for 100 days.
That sounds terrifying.
Right. But his book is full of these hilarious stories that prove people are often way more compliant than we expect.
Yeah.
He knocked on a stranger's door, asking to kick a soccer ball in their backyard.
And they said yes.
They said sure.
Yeah.
He even asked a flight attendant if he could make an announcement over the plane's PA system.
No way.
And she handed him the microphone.
Get out. Okay, I remember his story about the Olympic symbol donuts. That one was brilliant.
Yes. He walks into a donut shop, asks the cashier, Jackie, to make donuts in the shape of the Olympic rings. And she doesn't just say yes, she looks up the design, gets the colors right.
And she didn't even charge him, right?
Didn't charge him a dime for this completely bonkers request.
So both Bones and Zhang found that even when you expect a no, you often get a yes. The real insight here isn't just that people comply. It's that we are often the ones creating our own pressure by assuming a level of resistance or judgment that just isn't there most of the time.
It hammers home how poised we are to comply and how much we feel trapped on the other side of that request.
It's a powerful realization. And it leads us right into the two big drivers behind most of those reluctant yeses we give.
Our desire to maintain positive relationships and protect our reputation.
The heart and the head, our social selves and our professional selves.
Exactly. We want people to like us, see us as warm, caring. That's the warmth stereotype. But we also want them to see us as capable, smart, valuable, the competence stereotype.
And ideally, we want both.
We want both. Maintaining those social bonds, our relationships, and holding that positive image, our reputation, those are two absolutely central human goals.
And that's why we get stuck saying yes. Let's start with the relationship side, the people pleasers trap. This feels very common.
Oh, it is. This refers to people who consistently prioritize others' needs, often at their own expense. They feel incredibly guilty if they don't help, even if it means sacrificing their own health or well-being. Others' comfort comes first. Always.
It's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy, isn't it? If you think of yourself as a people pleaser, it becomes this fixed identity, an excuse not to change maybe, and then you just simmer with resentment underneath.
That's a great way to put it. And that quote from Herbert Bayard Swope nails it. I can't give you a surefire formula for success, but I can give you a formula for failure. Try to please everybody all the time.
So true. The book even has a self-assessment for this, right? Questions like, I often say yes when I want to say no, or I feel terrible if I disappoint people.
If you score high on those, it's a sign you might be putting others' needs way ahead of your own, feeling that pressure to conform, and potentially sacrificing your own well-being in the process.
And then there's the acquaintance trap. This one's sneaky.
It really is. We're often more likely to say yes to requests from acquaintances, Colleagues, distant relatives, people from the gym, just to keep things smooth on the surface.
Yeah, maintain that surface level harmony.
But that can lead to this overwhelming pileup of commitments from people we don't even have deep relationships with.
I've definitely done that. Said yes just to avoid an awkward moment,
Mm-hmm.
then regretted it massively later.
It's so easy to fall into. Raveena Tandon, the Indian actress, talked about this. Early in her career, she felt pressured to do crazy films just because, it's a friend's film, how can I refuse it?
Oh, wow.
But she learned that being assertive was actually a good thing. Operating out of that fear, just wanting to stay in with the crowd, it didn't serve her career or her peace of mind.
Okay, so that's the relationship side, wanting to be liked. But then there's the reputation side, wanting to be seen as competent. What happens when that drive backfires? Tell us about the House of Cards trap.
This is where trying too hard to protect your reputation can actually destroy it. The irony is, saying yes to everything to look good in the moment can lead to you performing poorly on all of it. Each new yes is another card added to this fragile structure until the whole thing just collapses under the weight.
Right, you're spread too thin.
Exactly. Linda, a businesswoman in the book, shared how her colleagues started seeing her perceived niceness as being a pushover. They'd literally say, ask Linda, she'll definitely say yes.
Ouch. That's not the reputation you want. Obliging, yes, but not ineffective.
Definitely not. What's fascinating is that a truly strong reputation isn't built on being a yes person. It's built on strategically saying no to things that aren't aligned with your skills or your time.
So you can actually excel at the things you do commit to.
Precisely. You're seen as reliable, responsible, capable of high-quality work because you manage your commitments effectively.
And the book has another self-assessment for this reputation concern, too.
Yes, questions like, my reputation matters a great deal to me, or I want people to think and say good things about me. Scoring high means reputation is important, which is fine, but it also makes you vulnerable to that House of Cards trap. Taking on too much to look good and then risking it all, it's finding that strategic balance.
Okay, so we understand why we say yes when we shouldn't, but the real pain often comes later, right? It's the hidden costs piling up over time. What happens when that reluctant yes becomes a thief? What does it really steal from us?
It can be a massive joy stealer. Alicia Keys described this so powerfully in her book. As her career exploded, she found herself saying yes to absolutely everything her team suggested.
Even when she didn't want to.
Even then, she said, I would be so overwhelmed or overworked. I was just saying yes to everything, and then I'd be exhausted, and there's no joy. It steals your joy. She simply didn't realize saying no was even an option.
Wow. That's more than just being tired. It's like the passion drains away.
It's an emotional and creative drain. When you say yes out of obligation, you're not just giving up your time or energy. You're giving up the potential for what Dr. Patrick calls a resounding yes.
A resounding yes.
Yeah.
What does that mean exactly?
Those are the opportunities, the commitments that feel absolutely right. The ones that align perfectly with your purpose, your values, the things that genuinely excite you.
Got it. Like Oprah often tells her guests to say no to anything that pulls them away from their core purpose.
Exactly. Tara Westover, the author of Educated, shared that Oprah told her, no is a complete sentence. Just hearing that can be incredibly liberating. It gives you permission to pursue what's truly meaningful.
No is a complete sentence. Simple, but powerful. And the cost of obligation, it can go way beyond just stealing joy, right? It can derail major creative work.
Oh, absolutely. Twyla Tharp, the famous choreographer, learned this the hard way. Even though she deeply valued her time and creative integrity, she agreed to choreograph what she knew was a bad piece of music, purely out of obligation. 6 torturous weeks later, after intense work with 16 dancers, countless studio hours, she finally had to admit it just wasn't working. She realized obligation is a flimsy base for creativity. It's way down the list behind passion, courage, instinct.
So that personal sacrifice was totally pointless and creatively destructive just because she felt obligated.
Exactly. It just highlights how obligation, without genuine conviction, can lead you down paths that waste your energy and undermine your best work.
Okay, let's talk about that feeling, that pit in your stomach when someone makes a request, and suddenly it feels like every single eye in the room is on you, waiting for your answer. You've called it the spotlight effect.
It's like being in a stadium proposal moment, right? We're the center of attention and you're flooded with these negative feelings, conflict, anxiety, pressure.
Totally. I remember reading about a role-playing exercise in the book.
Yes, in an executive class for women, a participant imagined her boss asking her to do something she really wanted to refuse. And her immediate thought was, If I say no, I'd be disappointing her. She'd think I'm not a team player.
That perfectly captures the social pressure, that feeling of being watched and judged.
It does. And a huge part of this spotlight effect comes from what researchers call the egocentric bias. We tend to drastically overestimate how much other people are actually noticing and evaluating us, especially our mistakes or awkward moments.
So the spotlight feels real, but it's mostly imaginary. We're shining it on ourselves.
To a large extent, yes. The classic Barry Manilow t-shirt study illustrates this perfectly.
Oh yeah, tell us about that one.
Participants had to wear this bright yellow t-shirt with a huge picture of Barry Manilow on it, deliberately embarrassing, and walk into a classroom. Afterwards, they massively overestimated how many people in the room actually noticed or remembered the shirt.
Because they felt self-conscious, they assumed everyone else was hyper-focused on them.
Exactly. Our own judgment of how conspicuous we feel colors our perception of others' attention. The truth is, most people are way too caught up in their own internal spotlights to pay that much attention to yours.
That's actually really comforting to know. As Martha Beck put it, in the beam of imaginary spotlights, many of us suffer untold shame and create smaller, weaker, less zestful lives than we deserve.
It's so true. And understanding that can really lower the stakes when you need to say no.
Now, what's fascinating is how this spotlight effect and the pressure to comply seems to play out differently for men and women. There was a study about volunteering during spring break.
Yes, a really interesting one. Participants imagined a friend asking them to volunteer for a charity making 20-25 phone calls during their spring break. Clearly something most would want to refuse.
Right. Not exactly a fun spring break activity.
The setup varied. Some were asked in front of friends who all agreed the social ask. Others were asked individually the solo ask.
And the gender differences were pretty stark, weren't they?
They were. Women reported feeling a stronger spotlight on them, more intense negative emotions, feeling uncomfortable, conflicted, trapped, and greater feelings of obligation and guilt, regardless of whether it was a social or solo ask.
So even when alone, women felt that pressure more intensely.
Yes. Men, on the other hand, felt significantly less obligated and guilty when it was a solo ask. It suggests women might experience this inherent sense of obligation more persistently, even without direct social pressure.
And this isn't just hypothetical, right? It connects to real-world stuff, like women taking on more thankless tasks at work.
Absolutely. Those workplace housekeeping tasks, cleaning the fridge, organizing the office party, taking notes in meetings nobody else wants to. Tasks that take time but offer zero recognition or promotion potential.
Right.
Research shows women are disproportionately asked to do them and disproportionately say yes. It's a real measurable burden that contributes to burnout and feeling undervalued.
Okay, so this leads to another key point, the disconnect between what we're saying and what we're thinking. We might say yes, but inside.
Inside, it's a whole different conversation. Chris Argyris and Donald Schoen developed this great tool comparing the explicit spoken conversation with the unvoiced thoughts and feelings swirling underneath.
The inner dialogue.
Exactly. Studies show even when someone says yes, their inner dialogue is often full of negativity, worry about the reputation, anxiety about the relationship.
And then we try to make ourselves feel better about it.
We self-justify. We tell ourselves, oh, it's only 20 calls, or it won't take that long. But that self-justification, while it makes us feel better momentarily, prevents us from actually learning from the mistake.
So we get stuck in this cycle of reluctant yeses and rationalization.
Precisely. And even when we do try to say no, most people don't give a clear, unambiguous no. They try to soften it.
Right, the buffering tactics.
Mm-hmm. Flattery, apologies, making excuses. These might smooth over the immediate moment and make it less awkward, but they're usually just temporary fixes. They don't stop the request from coming back later.
And they don't really convey conviction.
Not at all.
Yeah.
You also see compromise offers, or these wishy-washy no's, which are basically a yes disguised as a no. They signal uncertainty and often invite more pushback because the asker senses you're not fully committed to the refusal.
Okay, so how do we break out of this? How do we move from those reluctant, buffered, wishy-washy responses to what you call empowered refusal?
Yeah.
It starts with the concept from emergency rooms, triage.
Yes, triage. Just like doctors focus attention where it'll have the biggest impact, we need to apply that thinking to incoming requests. It's about managing that spotlight glare proactively and intentionally. There are 3 key strategies here.
Yeah, strategy 1, be prepared.
This is huge. Just knowing a request might be coming can dim that spotlight significantly. You can think through your response, maybe even rehearse it. But more fundamentally, being prepared means having absolute clarity on your own preferences, your values, your priorities. When you know what truly matters to you, it's much easier to recognize when a request doesn't align and refuse with real conviction.
That makes me think of Edmund Wilson, the literary critic. His approach was legendary, almost extreme.
Oh, completely next level. He was so committed to his writing, he got overwhelmed with requests. So he created this form letter, basically a personal policy, listing 18 specific things he would and would not do.
Like what?
Things like he'd only read manuscripts or judge contests if compensated. He absolutely would not autograph books for strangers or receive unknown visitors, period.
Wow. Talk about drawing a line.
But that laser focus, those clear priorities, allowed him to achieve incredible work, winning major awards. The power of having those explicit policies is it removes the need for that stressful in-the-moment decision where we often cave.
Incredible. Okay, strategy 2, diffuse the spotlight.
This is all about buying yourself time. Unless it's an immediate, enthusiastic, hell yes, don't feel pressured to answer right away.
Just pause.
Take time to think. You could even have your own version of an Edmund Wilson list nearby as a reminder. Politely say something like, "Let me check my commitments and get back to you." That pause gives you space to evaluate properly.
Right. And strategy 3, endure the spotlight. This sounds like where the real courage comes in.
This is where the power of empowered refusal truly lies. It takes immense internal fortitude. Think about Rosa Parks.
December 1st, 1955. The bus in Montgomery.
Exactly. She refused to give up her seat, and she recognized the driver as the same man who'd kicked her off a bus years earlier. When he told her to move, others did, but she stayed put.
Imagine the pressure, the stares, the fear in that moment.
The immense glare of the spotlight, the anxiety, the conflict, the very real danger. She wrote later she tried not to think about what might happen, just knew she had to remain.
And that simple act, born of conviction.
Her deep-seated values, maybe remembering that earlier incident, her grandfather's fears about injustice that fueled her decision. She didn't let the pressure, the fear, the desire to avoid conflict win.
There are other powerful examples too, like Maria Tolchief, the ballerina.
Yes. She refused pressure to change her last name from Tolchief to something more Russian-sounding, like Tolchiva, to hide her Osage heritage. Her refusal honored her identity and helped pave the way for more diversity in ballet.
And Roberto Clemente, the baseball great, insisting on being called Roberto, not Bob or Bobby.
Resisting those attempts to Americanize him, disrespecting his Puerto Rican roots, these are all stories of standing firm in one's identity.
So what's the underlying message here? What connects these acts?
Empowered refusal isn't really about rejecting the other person. It stems from looking inward. It's about affirming your identity, your values, your principles. It's an act of self-affirmation, of internal conviction, not defiance against someone else.
That's a really crucial distinction. It reminds me of the ultimatum game in economics, which shows how much we value fairness over pure gain.
Ah, yes, the ultimatum game. One person proposes how to split money, the other accepts or rejects. If rejected, nobody gets anything.
Rationally, you should accept any offer, right? Some money is better than none.
Rationally, yes. But humans are wired for fairness. When offers feel unfair, typically less than 30%, people often reject them, even though it means getting nothing. Being treated unfairly feels worse than getting zero.
And research on self-affirmation connects directly to this willingness to reject unfairness.
It does. Rulaigu and colleagues had participants do a self-affirmation task, basically, reflecting on a cherished value, like family or knowledge, and writing about why it was important. They found that those who did the self-affirmation task were significantly more likely to reject unfair offers in the ultimatum game compared to a control group.
So reminding yourself of who you are, what you stand for, literally boosts your ability to say no to unfairness.
It strengthens your resolve. And interestingly, there's also research linking feeling powerful with increased empathy.
Really? How does that work?
When people feel powerful, studies show they become more accurate at judging others' emotional expressions and better at empathizing. Maybe because when you feel secure in yourself, you have more bandwidth to understand others, even as you hold your ground. That internal clarity reduces the anxiety that might otherwise cloud your perception.
Okay, let's really unpack this next point because it feels so practical and, well, powerful. The difference between saying I don't versus I can't. It seems like such a small shift in wording.
Tiny. But it taps into something much deeper about our identity and our willpower.
Explain that. Why does framing it as I don't make such a difference compared to I can't?
When you say I don't, it implies a firm personal policy. It's part of your identity. It signals willpower, an internal locus of control. It's basically saying, this is who I am, this is a rule I live by.
It's an identity statement. Whereas I can't sounds like something outside of you is stopping you.
Exactly. I can't suggest an external impediment. Oh, I'd love to, but, circumstances. It almost invites pushback because the asker senses the obstacle is external and maybe negotiable.
Right. They might try to solve the can't for you.
Precisely. I don't firmly closes that door. Research we conducted found salespeople were way more convinced by potential clients who used I don't language, like I don't buy magazines without planning, compared to I can't language. They saw the I don't person as more determined, more committed, more persuasive because it signaled an unwavering internal rule.
And there was a study about refusing dessert that showed the same thing.
Yes. When party guests refused dessert saying, I don't eat dessert, it was perceived as much more identity-based, conveying greater conviction and persuasiveness than saying, I can't eat dessert. It just shut down the conversation. No room for coaxing.
And crucially, it's not just about how others see you. It actually impacts your own self-control. This feels like the real game changer for personal discipline.
Absolutely. We saw this clearly in a wellness challenge study. Women were trying to stick to health goals. The group that used I don't as self-talk, for example, I don't skip workouts, persisted significantly longer.
How much longer?
On average, 9.2 days compared to only 2.9 days for the I can't group. And get this, 80% of the I don't group stuck with it for the full 10 days versus only 10% of the I can't group.
Wow, that's a huge difference.
It's because I don't reframes the choice. It's not a constant battle of willpower you might lose. It's just who you are.
So that strategic phrasing, I don't, changes how others see you and strengthens your own resolve and persistence. That's a vital tool for building habits or breaking old ones.
And this all ties into the 3 core facets of truly empowered refusal. It needs to be authentic, concrete, and it needs to WO win others over.
Okay. Authentic meaning it reflects your identity, your values, your priorities. It makes the no about you, not a rejection of the other person. How does that land with the asker?
When it's authentic, it feels less personal to them. They understand it's about your principles, your boundaries. It allows them to save face and accept your position without feeling dismissed.
Makes sense. And concrete meaning clear, precise communication, avoiding vague language. How does using your whole self, verbal and nonverbal cues, fit in here?
It ensures congruence. Your body language, your tone, they need to align with your clear, direct words. No ambiguity. That signals conviction, determination, leaving less room for misinterpretation or pushback. It says, this is firm.
Got it. And W wins others over. How does an authentic, concrete no achieve that? It seems counterintuitive.
Because it's grounded in your identity and conviction, it actually elicits less pushback. It secures your relationships and keeps your reputation intact. It's a no that can paradoxically make people respect you more, not less.
Like the story of Professor William Waterman Sherman, the guy found floating in the ocean with balloons.
Exactly. Rescued by a freighter, clinging to wood, surrounded by deflated balloons. Everyone from the captain down was dying to know how he got there.
Understandably.
But the professor, even in that ridiculous state, just steadfastly refused to explain. Even when the President of the United States sent someone to ask.
He just wouldn't budge.
Held his tongue, and his firm, dignified no didn't anger people. Instead, they respected it. They gave him the support he needed for whatever mission he was on, helped him get to New York. He won them over through sheer conviction and mystery.
It shows that a clear, authentic refusal, grounded in who you are, can earn immense respect and even make you legendary. Wow. That Professor Sherman story really lands the point that empowered refusal starts by looking inward, affirming yourself. But how do we actually do that? How do we cultivate that deep self-awareness needed as the foundation?
It really is the foundation. The book uses the metaphor of the Aranmala Kannadi, an ancient Indian mirror. Unlike regular mirrors, its surface is polished metal, said to reveal an untarnished truth.
So it symbolizes looking deeper, seeing yourself clearly, honestly.
Exactly. It prompts that kind of self-reflection needed for growth. And there are 2 dimensions to this self-awareness we need to cultivate. First, there's private or internal self-awareness.
Which is?
Understanding your own needs, drives, strengths, weaknesses, your core values, how you react emotionally, knowing yourself from the inside out.
Okay. And second dimension?
That's public or external self-awareness, understanding how other people see you. This is crucial for navigating social situations effectively.
And people who are strong in both dimensions, what benefits do they see?
What's fascinating is they tend to be more confident, they make sounder decisions, communicate more effectively, build stronger relationships. They gain that reputation for walking the talk because their actions align with their stated values.
They're congruent.
Yes, they can turn down, say, a tempting job offer if it doesn't align with their values, avoiding that feeling of inauthenticity and keeping their career path purposeful.
And there's a specific tool mentioned, the reflected best self exercise. Asking people you trust, when was I at my best? How does that help?
It's incredibly powerful because it often uncovers strengths you might overlook in yourself. Maybe you take your reliability or your resilience for granted, but others see it as a standout quality.
So it gives you that external perspective on your internal strengths.
Exactly. It offers a more complete, often more positive picture of yourself, which boosts your confidence in making decisions, including when to say no.
Okay, so once you have that self-awareness, how do you use it to navigate all the choices and requests?
Yes.
It seems like it connects directly to understanding your life's purpose.
Absolutely. It starts with clarifying your purpose, your fundamental why. Ken Burns, the documentary filmmaker, is a great example. His decades of work are driven by that one core question: who are we as Americans?
Right, that clarity guides everything.
It helps him choose what projects to take on and, just as importantly, what to let go. His no to other things is always rooted in that profound yes to his purpose.
And that why then informs what you consider good work, shaping your daily efforts.
Good work, as researchers define it, is technically excellent, ethically pursued, socially responsible, and genuinely engaging. It feels good and right to do. Annie Dillard said, "How you spend your days is how you spend your life."
A sobering thought.
It is. If your calendar is filled with stuff you've reluctantly said yes to, stuff that doesn't feel like good work, it's maybe time for a reassessment. It's not about doing more. It's about doing the right things, the things aligned with your purpose.
And doing the right things means consciously understanding opportunity costs. This is something we often gloss over, isn't it?
We really do. Opportunity cost is simply what you give up by saying yes to one thing. The book mentions Marion, an architect. She took on 2 lucrative office projects, but that meant giving up her passion project, designing a school for underprivileged kids.
Right. The hidden sacrifice.
People often ignore these costs, focusing only on the immediate gain. But research shows those who do consider what they're sacrificing actually get more out of life. They make decisions that are more aligned in the long run.
Okay, so with self-awareness, purpose, a focus on good work, and understanding opportunity costs, you can start deciphering all the asks coming your way, almost like Napoleon Bonaparte's famous skill.
Yes, his coup d'oeil, his ability to instantly see the tactical advantages. We can apply a similar lens, quickly categorizing requests based on their cost to us versus the benefit to others, all viewed through our purpose. It makes the yes-no decision much clearer, less emotional.
Let's break down those categories, those quadrants. First, the easy ones. Pass the salt asks.
These are low-cost, high-benefit, simple for you, helpful for them, literally passing the salt, proofreading a quick email. Generally, say yes to these.
But there's a trap here.
The Mickles trap. Mickles make a muckle, as the saying goes. Too many tiny pass-the-salt requests, while small individually, can pile up and overwhelm you. Don't major in minor things.
Good point. Okay, next. Email tweet post asks. Sounds like busy work.
Often is. These are low-cost, low-benefit. Anthropologist David Graeber called these meaningless assignments tasks that if they disappeared, nobody would notice. Like Tracy, the young woman forced to tweet multiple times a day for her boss with no real impact.
Right. What's the advice here?
Generally, say no to these or delegate or outsource if you can. They just drain time and energy for little return.
Okay, then the dreaded bake your famous lasagna asks. High effort, low reward.
Exactly. High cost, low benefit. These are often careless, thoughtless requests that drain your resources without providing a truly significant or unique benefit to the asker. Your friend asking you to make your complex, time-consuming signature dish for their party, knowing full well what it involves.
That feels exploitative.
Often we overestimate how much benefit we're actually providing with these. The advice: say no firmly, or maybe offer a much lower cost alternative if you feel generous.
And finally, the big ones. Hero's Journey asks.
These are high cost, high benefit. They resonate with your sense of meaning and purpose, but they demand a significant personal investment. Think major volunteer commitments, a career change that requires sacrifice, taking on a huge, meaningful project.
So not an automatic yes.
Definitely not. These require careful assessment. Ask yourself, Is this truly aligned with my purpose? Do I realistically have the resources, time, energy, money right now? Will it add genuine value or feel rewarding? Am I saying yes out of genuine desire or fear? And crucially, what will I have to give up to do this? Sometimes the answer is strategic postponement. Sometimes it's that life-changing, resounding yes.
And even with this framework, there's still traps lurking.
Absolutely. Beyond the Mickles trap, watch out for the only you can do it trap. That's when flattery makes you overestimate how uniquely indispensable you are for a task.
Especially for those non-promotable tasks we talked about.
Precisely. Linda Babcock's research showed women get asked 44% more often for these office housework tasks and say yes 76% of the time versus 51% for men. Recognizing when flattery is being used to offload that kind of work is key.
So it's a trap and a gendered issue reinforcing inequity. Got it.
And then there's the you can't back out now trap, where a difficult asker, a walnut tree, locks you into something, making you feel trapped by perceived consequences or social pressure.
And linking back to pleasers versus aware individuals, how does self-awareness help navigate all this, especially if you lean towards pleasing?
Pleasers tend to be high on external awareness, how others see them, but low on internal awareness, their own needs. So they make choices prioritizing others' perceptions over their own success. Aware individuals are high in both. They know themselves, value others' views, and see the bigger picture.
Which helps even with necessary grunt work.
Yes. Things like being a doctoral student or a medical resident involve tasks you can't really say no to. But self-awareness helps you frame them not as endless obligation, but as a temporary, necessary stage towards a larger goal you've consciously chosen. It's enduring for a purpose, not out of fear.
Okay, so we've built this foundation of self-awareness. What's the next really powerful step to solidify empowered refusal? It's the idea you mentioned. Make rules, not decisions. Sounds very efficient.
It is. This is about establishing clear personal policies. These are simple rules you set for yourself, grounded in your unique identity, your values, priorities, preferences. They articulate the why behind your no and empower you to refuse with conviction, reducing that exhausting decision fatigue.
And Isabella Lend, the novelist, is a fantastic example of this in practice. Her routine is legendary.
Absolutely. She has this incredibly exacting daily routine, writing Monday to Saturday, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., plus her famous personal policy of starting every new project on January 8th, the day she started the House of the Spirits.
That consistency sends a clear signal, doesn't it?
A very clear signal, both to herself and others. It allows her to easily say no to other things without agonizing over relationships or reputation. It's just her rule. She even has a what I don't do list on her website, just like Edmund Wilson.
So these personal policies, they're different from setting boundaries. It feels like a subtle but maybe important difference.
It's a crucial distinction. Boundaries are often like walls you put up to keep others out to protect your space from external intrusions. Think defense.
Okay.
Personal policies, though, are rules you make for yourself about how you choose to live your life based on what you find meaningful. They're about your internal compass, a self-imposed discipline, not a restriction aimed at others. Think guidance.
Got it. So how do we actually create these personal policies for ourselves? The book offers the DREAM framework. Let's walk through it. D is for
diagnose the pain point. Get really specific about what's causing friction. Not enough exercise, constantly distracted by social media. Jamie Beckall, the consultant, diagnosed her pain point as interruptions during work calls. Her policy became, unless you're injured or the house is on fire, please don't interrupt me. Clear and specific.
Okay.
R is for reflect. But instead of asking, why me, or getting bogged down in guilt, ask what instead. This removes the emotional baggage. Stephanie Cox, the executive who had the no 5-minute requests policy, wasn't asking why she couldn't say no. She asked what she would do instead, focus on her strategic priorities.
E.
E is for establish. Define your policy clearly with a specific target behavior. This might involve announcements to others, like telling your team you're offline for family dinner between 5 and 8 p.m., or it might be self-talk just for you.
Like Gretchen Rubin's dad's advice about exercise.
Exactly. All you have to do is put on your running shoes and let the front door shut behind you. Simple self-instruction. Some policies need both, like a professor deciding to work from home on Wednesdays needs to inform colleagues and hold themselves accountable.
And this seems especially crucial for groups like women in academia stuck in that I just can't say no club for non-promotable tasks.
Absolutely critical. Those tasks, organizing events, low-level committees are often invisible, unrewarded, and eat up time needed for research or other promotable work. A clear personal policy, I don't serve on more than one internal committee per year, for example, provides the framework to decline without guilt, reclaiming that valuable time.
Okay.
A is for act. Put the policy into practice. Make it real. Don't just think about it. This is where it becomes habit. M is for monitor. Give it time to stick, the book suggests, around 66 days, the average time for a new habit to form. But importantly, if it's not working for you, adapt it. It's your policy, designed to serve your life, not a rigid prison sentence. They should evolve with you.
So once you have these policies, what are the big payoffs? They sound like they bring a sense of calm and direction.
They absolutely do. First, they act as a compass. They guide your decisions, helping you choose between competing priorities instantly. That 5 p.m. gym policy. When a colleague asks for a last-minute 5 p.m. meeting, the policy says no. No internal debate, no agonizing, no regret, decision made.
Effortless refusal.
Nice.
And they also act as a magnet.
Yes, drawing you towards what you want to prioritize: family, friends, hobbies, deep work, and helping you resist the sponges that just soak up your time and energy. You know, the overworked boss always asking for more, the endless scroll of social media.
Identify your sponges. I like that. Glenn Close's advice, fill your own cup first.
Exactly. Then deal with the world using the overflow. Policies help protect that cup.
And third, they're a bridge to personal mastery, building lasting discipline.
Personal policies create a culture of discipline around what matters most. Twyla Tharp saw her daily taxi ride to the gym not just as transport, but as her ritual for creativity. That consistent system built a structure for discipline that flowed into her creative work. It becomes automatic.
That's a world away from relying on flimsy willpower in the moment. And speaking of flimsy, how do personal policies differ from just making excuses? This feels key.
Hugely different. Excuses are temporary fixes that shift blame externally. The dog ate my homework, traffic was awful. They might get you off the hook short term, but they don't last. People see through them eventually, and the requests keep coming. Even good excuses have an expiration date.
Right. But a personal policy is rooted in your identity.
Precisely. It places the decision squarely on you, based on your values. I don't lend money to friends, that's a policy. I'm saving for grad school, that's an excuse. The Loan study showed people were far less likely to ask again years later if the refusal was based on a policy versus an excuse. Policies endure because they're about who you are.
So these policies essentially create a protected space, a zone of excellence for your priorities.
Beautiful analogy from the book, like flame sterilization in science. You create this clean, protected zone where you can operate effectively, free from the contamination of unwanted requests. Think of Madeleine Albright's pins.
Her diplomatic arsenal.
Exactly. A snake pin for dealing with a rock. Happy pins for good days, bugs for bad ones. She was plain speaking her position non-verbally, creating her zone. Or Zaha Hadid, the architect. Her bold, unique style was reflected in her personal appearance, defying labels, expressing her raw, vital self. Your policies, your presentation, they create this zone where you can flourish.
Okay, so the words matter, the policies matter. But it's also critical to bring your whole self to the refusal. It's not just what you say, it's very much how you say it. Our bodies often betray us, don't they?
They really do. Our body language often leaks our true feelings, that anticipatory angst, the dread, the tension. If your words say no, but your body is slumped, fidgeting, avoiding eye contact, it screams unsure or reluctant.
And that just invites pushback. The asker senses the incongruence.
Exactly. The book mentions a wordless movie experiment. You can figure out the genre, the emotions, just from nonverbal cues. Even without understanding the language, your body is constantly broadcasting signals, and often people believe those signals more than your actual words.
So how do we consciously harness this nonverbal power to make sure our no is clear, respected, and congruent?
Well, first, pay attention to your vocal variety. This isn't just volume, it's pace, pitch, pauses, the timbre or quality of your voice, intonation. Think of that story about the old, dusty violin at auction.
Yeah, selling for almost nothing.
Until a master violinist picks it up and plays it, revealing its true, rich value. Your voice is your instrument. When you learn to control it, speak clearly, with conviction, maybe pausing strategically, your no resonates with authority.
Makes sense. And our posture sends huge signals too.
Oh, absolutely. Standing tall, shoulders back, claiming your space, maybe leaning in slightly with open palms. These all convey confidence, power, openness. Slouching, making yourself small, that signals low power submissiveness. When I teach, I consciously adopt my tree pose, standing tall, rooted. It signals I mean business before I even speak.
But all these cues, the voice, the posture, they only really work if there's genuine authenticity and congruence, right? If it feels forced, people pick up on that.
100%. What you say and how your body presents must align. Incongruence breeds distrust, signals a lack of conviction. Robin Roberts reporting on Hurricane Katrina in her devastated home state.
Oh, I remember that. So powerful.
Her raw, authentic emotion, that personal connection, it was congruent. Her mess became her message, and viewers responded incredibly because they felt her authenticity. Or think of Michelle Obama's signature power hugs conveying warmth and diplomacy physically, or Barbara Jordan's commanding voice, every word backed by unwavering conviction in her tone and presence. That whole self-approach is incredibly impactful.
And beyond just conveying power or conviction, these nonverbals can actually be used strategically to secure relationships, even while you're saying no, to soften the blow.
Yes, absolutely. Active listening is paramount. Truly engaging, making eye contact, nodding, maybe asking clarifying questions before you refuse it, shows the asker you've genuinely heard and understood them. That makes them much more receptive to your eventual no.
And setting aside your phone. That's a big one.
Huge. Smartphones are like adult pacifiers. They instantly signal distraction, telling the other person they don't have your full attention. Put it away.
Good advice. And using nonverbals to build trust and rapport can also help cushion the refusal.
Definitely. Open body language, uncrossed arms, showing your palms signals honesty. Genuine smiles convey warmth. Even a light, appropriate touch on the arm or shoulder can build connection. These create a bridge of empathy, even as you deliver the no.
But you mentioned the smile needs careful consideration.
Yes, especially for women, research suggests that while a warm smile builds rapport, an overly broad or constant smile can sometimes undermine perceptions of competence or seriousness. It's about finding that balanced warmth, yes, but also professional gravity when needed.
Now, what's really interesting here is how these cues often differ based on gender, tied to what researchers call agency versus communality. This feels important for understanding the nuances of refusal.
Right. Generally, men are socialized towards agentic behaviors being assertive, decisive, strong. Women are often socialized towards communal behaviors being caring, sympathetic, sensitive, and this often shows up non-verbally.
How so?
Men might be more comfortable with dominance cues, controlling touch, interrupting more, taking up more physical space. Women often excel at warmth and compassion cues, reassuring touch, more smiling, maybe using more emojis in texts or emails.
So this raises a really important question. What can men and women learn from each other to be more effective and congruent in their empowered refusal?
It's about broadening the toolkit. For women, who might default to communal cues, it could mean consciously adopting more agentic signals when needed, speaking firmly, maintaining direct eye contact, avoiding excessive smiling or hedging language when delivering a serious no. This ensures their competence isn't inadvertently undermined.
Okay. And for men?
For men who might lean heavily on agentic cues, incorporating more warmth cues, active listening, a reassuring nod, perhaps a brief, genuine smile after the refusal can help cushion the no and preserve the relationship. The ultimate goal for everyone is congruence, making sure your words, your tone, and your body language all send the same clear, respectful, and firm message.
Okay, so you've done the inner work, you've got your policies, you're using your whole self, but then you run into a walnut tree. I love that term for those really difficult people.
Yes, the moniker for those, well, mean-spirited individuals who seem bent on sabotaging you, making you feel worthless, just draining your energy. The jerks, the bullies, the tyrants.
Dealing with them can instantly flip that feeling of power into panic, right?
Oh.
Undermine your confidence.
Absolutely. They operate by pushing boundaries, making you question yourself, making you feel small and inadequate.
And they have different tactics, different types of pushback they use. First, there's the angry, aggressive type. Yikes.
This is the yelling, the intimidation, the threats, maybe even physical aggression, like banging a fist on the table. Think of those stereotypical images of bosses like Steve Jobs or Jack Welch yelling.
What drives that kind of reaction?
Often it stems from feeling their authority has been challenged or their goals are being blocked. A manager might yell at someone refusing to cover a shift because they feel their control is threatened and the restaurant won't run smoothly. The goal is to shock you, intimidate you into compliance.
Okay. Then there's the insistent type, the I will just wear you down approach.
These people simply do not take no for an answer. They ask again and again, maybe rephrasing it, trying to make you feel responsible or guilty for not helping. Sandy, the executive in the book, struggling to step down as neighborhood association president.
Yeah, her neighbors just kept piling on the pressure.
It's for the good of the association. You're the only one who can do it. They just wear you down through sheer persistence, playing on your sense of duty.
And the classic guilt tripping. This one feels particularly insidious.
It's incredibly common and effective because it directly targets our desire to be seen as good, cooperative people. They manipulate your emotions, making you feel selfish or unkind for prioritizing your own needs. I thought I could count on you, that kind of thing.
Ugh. And then the opposite of yelling, the silent treatment. You'll be sorry. That feels chilling.
It is. This is that ominous, stony silence. The walnut tree might punish your no by ignoring your calls, texts, emails, ghosting you completely.
That can really mess with your head.
It's passive-aggressive anger, and it can seriously impact self-esteem, leaving you feeling insecure, wondering what you did wrong. They create doubt and uncertainty by deliberately withholding response.
And of course, the only you can do it trap and the you can't back out now trap are often weaponized as pushback tactics too.
Definitely. So how do you handle this? There are key enabler strategies, as the book calls them. First, crucially, reinforce your position. Stick to your decision.
Like a broken record. Just keep repeating the no politely but firmly.
Exactly. Repeat it calmly and keep it brief. The less you say, the less ammunition they have to argue with. And importantly, state a personal policy. I don't lend money to friends. Rather than an excuse, I'm saving up. The policy is much harder to argue with and lasts longer.
Okay. Offering an alternative is sometimes okay.
Only if it's genuinely feasible and you actually want to. Don't offer something you'll regret. And always be truthful. Don't invent complex lies that can unravel.
Good advice. Second strategy, strategically postpone.
This buys you breathing room, especially if the request comes electronically, reducing that immediate pressure. You can step back, consult your no club trusted friends or mentors, weigh the pros and cons, and craft a calm, thoughtful written response. Online communication allows for more intention, less emotion.
And finally, the importance of learning from pushback. Our minds have this tricky way of rationalizing bad decisions.
Our psychological immune system, it finds the silver linings, helps us cope. You say yes reluctantly, and your brain goes, oh, it wasn't that bad, or, well, at least they appreciate me now.
Which feels good short term, but stops you from learning.
Exactly. It leads to self-justification, which makes you likely to repeat the same mistake. Instead of rationalizing, actively reflect on why you caved, what triggered it, how did the pushback work. Use that negative experience to refine your empowered refusal for the next time. Turn the setback into strategic learning.
Okay, so we're getting better at saying no to others, but sometimes the bigger battle, maybe the biggest battle, is saying no to ourselves. Kristen's story about fast food really highlights this internal struggle.
Yes, Kristen, the working mom. Caught in that exhausting cycle, too tired after work, buys fast food, feels guilty, repeats. She knew it was unhealthy, but couldn't break the pattern.
What was her breakthrough?
It was shifting her self-talk. Instead of, I can't eat fast food, which felt like deprivation, she started telling herself, I don't eat fast food on weeknights. It became part of her identity.
The I don't versus I can't again, but applied internally.
Exactly. And she combined that identity shift with setting up systems, meal planning, having easy, healthy options ready. The combination worked. She broke the cycle by changing her self-perception and her environment.
This really speaks to the idea that simple deprivation often doesn't work long-term when we're facing temptation. It feels counterintuitive, but telling ourselves no constantly can backfire.
It often does. Think of Odysseus tying himself to the mast to resist the sirens. Historically, the solution to temptation was often seen as deprivation, willpower, resistance.
Right, just grit your teeth.
But modern research shows that telling yourself, I can't have this, often just makes it more desirable. It creates this feeling of scarcity, which intensifies craving and often leads to an eventual relapse. You deplete your willpower fighting against the forbidden fruit.
So what's the more effective, more compassionate approach to self-control?
It's the concept of not now, later. This was inspired partly by the Buddha's path to enlightenment. He found it through moderation, not extreme deprivation.
Okay, not now, later. How does that work in practice?
Research on strategic postponement shows that giving yourself permission to indulge later, telling yourself Not now, maybe later, when you crave that fried chicken or want to scroll social media, significantly reduces the immediate craving. It's much more effective than saying not ever.
Why does that work?
It signals to your brain that the pleasure isn't totally forbidden, just delayed. This reduces the psychological pressure, the feeling of scarcity, making it easier to resist in the moment without depleting all your willpower.
And central to managing these internal struggles is harnessing our self-talk. Our inner voice really is our most influential coach, isn't it? For better or worse.
Absolutely. And we can use different kinds of self-talk strategically. There's instructional self-talk for guiding specific actions or managing thoughts.
Like not now, later for temptation.
Exactly. Or using non-first-person language, like talking to yourself by name or using you. Research by Ethan Cross found this creates psychological distance from anxiety. Saying, okay, your name, you can handle this meeting, actually calms your heart rate, like getting advice from a wise coach.
That's fascinating. And the other type is motivational self-talk.
This is about keeping your spirits up, reinforcing your values. Think of Diana Nye chanting, "Never ever give up," during her incredible Cuba swim. Or Colin Powell psyching himself up before tough meetings with, "Fast Daddy, let's play some pool. I may be down, but never out."
It's like having your own internal mantra.
Yes, or asking yourself value-based questions like, must I or should I do this instead of just can I, to ensure alignment with your priorities. And a great tip for silencing your inner critic, that negative voice. Give it a funny name.
Like Bruno from the movie Luca.
Exactly. Naming it helps you recognize it as separate from your true self, reducing its power over you.
So it's about managing the inner voice and becoming an architect of your life by designing effective systems. This feels like the ultimate level of empowered living.
It really is. Think of the tale of two wolves. The one you feed wins. Personal policies, routines, they create systems that consistently feed the good wolf of your desired habits and goals.
Like Benjamin Franklin's famously rigorous schedule.
Precisely. Waking at 5 a.m., asking, what good shall I do this day? Meticulously tracking virtues. His whole day was a system built around his priorities, reflecting his values. It reduced the need for constant moment-to-moment decisions.
Or a simpler example, Betty White's system for weight management.
Just weigh herself daily. If she was a pound over, she'd immediately do something to lose it. Simple, immediate system. No drama, no deprivation, just a routine.
These systems are like the red velvet ropes mentioned in the book.
Yes. Subtle barriers or guiding principles that gently steer you towards the life you want, respecting your time and priorities without feeling like a rigid prison. They help you flourish in your zone of excellence, protected but not constrained. They're yours to adjust as you learn and grow.
As we start to bring this all together, it feels really vital to acknowledge explicitly that saying no is often a distinctly gendered issue. Women frequently face unique hurdles. Shirley Chisholm's story is such a powerful illustration of the courage needed.
Absolutely. Shirley Chisholm, the first African-American woman in Congress. When she was initially assigned to the House Agriculture Committee, completely irrelevant to her urban Brooklyn district, she didn't just accept it.
What did she say?
Her famous line, apparently all they know about Brooklyn here in Washington is that a tree grew there. It was a brilliant, defiant refusal to accept work that wouldn't serve her constituents.
And she fought back.
She fought hard and got reassigned to the Veterans Affairs Committee, where she could actually make a difference for the people she represented. That act cemented her Fighting Shirley nickname. She demanded, if you can't support me or you can't endorse me, get out of my way.
Wow. Her refusal wasn't just about a committee, it was a fundamental assertion of her agency and relevance.
Exactly. And the data really bears out that women face greater difficulty saying no. We touched on this earlier, but the numbers are stark.
Remind us of those specific burdens.
Studies confirm women tend to feel more guilt when refusing, and they are significantly more likely to be asked to do those non-promotable tasks, the workplace housework. Managers ask women 44% more often.
And women say yes far more often, too.
76% of the time compared to 51% for men. It's not just a feeling, it's a measurable workload imbalance with real career consequences.
And what are some of the broader barriers women face due to this dynamic?
They often get bypassed for promotions, even when their contributions are significant. They can feel isolated in male-dominated fields. They experience repeating, where a man repeats a woman's idea and gets credit for it. And they suffer higher rates of burnout, partly from juggling these extra unrewarded tasks alongside everything else.
And on top of the external barriers, women often grapple with internalized, self-limiting behaviors stemming from socialization and stereotypes. What do those look like?
Things like, undervaluing their own contributions, attributing success to luck rather than skill, battling imposter syndrome, downplaying accomplishments. This can lead to them being overlooked for influential roles.
They're also less likely to ask for things.
Yes, less likely to ask for promotions, raises, even necessary time off. Men are 4 times more likely to initiate salary negotiations, for example. And many women shy away from bragging or personal branding, fearing backlash for appearing too assertive or not conforming to expected modesty.
Despite Eleanor Smith's great quote, people of accomplishment rarely sat back and let things happen to them. They went out and happened to things.
Exactly. That fear of backlash for not being communal enough is a powerful internal barrier.
Which brings us back to that tension between getting ahead versus getting along.
Yeah.
The concepts of agency and communality we discussed with nonverbals. It seems women are often penalized for displaying agency.
Right. Agentic qualities, assertive, ambitious, confident, are stereotypically linked to men and the drive for getting ahead. Communal qualities, cooperative, empathetic, generous, are linked to women and getting along. Both rates exist in workplaces, mirroring dominance and prestige strategies seen even in primate groups.
But what's fascinating, and maybe frustrating, is that research shows women's competence stereotypes have improved dramatically. They're seen as equally or even more competent than men now.
Yes, huge strides there. But the agency gap persists. Despite being seen as competent, women are still often penalized more than men for exhibiting assertive agentic behavior. They still need to consciously exercise those agentic muscles.
So how do women bridge that gap? How do they assert themselves effectively without facing backlash?
Well, agency isn't just about being assertive. It's that purposeful drive to wholeheartedly pursue what is meaningful to you. Framing it that way, as Maya Angelou suggested, makes it a responsibility, not just a right, to stand up for yourself and your work.
And women can also leverage their communal strengths here, like forming supportive networks.
Absolutely. Journalist Brooke Baldwin calls them huddles. These supportive networks of women are crucial. Research shows women often benefit from different kinds of networks than men to succeed. These huddles provide a space to share experiences, strategize, build collective confidence, and amplify each other's agency, creating a powerful force navigating these challenges together.
Okay, so wrapping up this really rich deep dive into the power of saying no, what are the absolute key takeaways? It feels like it starts with looking inward.
Absolutely. It begins with cultivating that deep self-awareness, really understanding your identity, your core values, your strengths, your priorities. That's the bedrock.
And from that foundation, you can clearly identify your good work, what truly matters, and crucially, understand the often invisible opportunity costs of saying yes to things that pull you away from your purpose.
Exactly. And armed with that clarity, you then practice empowered refusal. That means saying no in a way that is authentic, reflecting you, not rejecting them. Concrete, clear, direct, unambiguous. And ultimately, wubby-wo, it wins others over, securing respect and relationships.
And to make this stick, to make it easier, you build a system of personal policies, not rigid rules, but guidelines.
Your personal policies act as a compass, guiding your decisions. A magnet, drawing you to priorities and repelling time wasters, and a bridge to personal mastery, building discipline around what's most important.
And remember to bring your whole self, aligning your words and your nonverbals for truant communication. Plus, being prepared to manage pushback from those difficult walnut trees, learning from those encounters instead of just rationalizing.
And finally, mastering the inner game. Learning to say no to yourself when needed, harnessing identity-based self-talk like I don't instead of I can't, and building systems for compassionate self-control like not now, later, to manage temptation without constant willpower depletion.
It's a comprehensive toolkit. And connecting this to a bigger picture, you mentioned Mahatma Gandhi's philosophy.
Yes, satyagraha, literally holding on to truth. It was about nonviolent resistance born from deep self-reflection, aiming not for one side to win or lose, but for a new harmony.
So imagine that. Imagine a world where we all operate from that place of self-awareness, where we confidently say no to what doesn't serve us and graciously accept others' no's without resentment.
A world where everyone feels empowered to focus their energy on their good work, the things that truly matter to them, free from the weight of reluctant obligation.
This deep dive has hopefully given you, our listeners, the insights and tools to start building that reality in your own life. It starts with one empowered no at a time.
Thanks for tuning in to the Book Summary Podcast. If you found value in today's episode, hit that like button, subscribe for more summaries, and share it with someone who's ready to grow. Want deeper insights, exclusive book notes, and reading tips? Join our free newsletter. The link's in the description. And don't forget, if you'd like to read the full book, our affiliate link is right below. It helps support the channel and keeps the summaries coming. Until next time, keep reading, keep growing.